Hello and welcome to Shootin' the Breeze. I'm WECT First Alert Chief Meteorologist Gannon Medwick, and I'm so happy to have you alongside for this 11th episode. This one's very special to me because it serves in part as an offshoot of the program Hurricane Florence 5 years later that you saw on WECT News on September 14th, which was the 5-year anniversary of the Cape Fear landfall of that devastating storm. What do you remember about Florence? Coming up, you'll hear from some of your favorite WECT anchors and meteorologists about our reflections and lessons from the storm. But first, this episode's trivia question, and it's all about this new season of fall. Consider the 2 months that make up the heart of fall, October and November. Summer is handing off to winter, lots of variety in temperatures. So the question is, what is Wilmington's record high and record low for the 2-month span of October and November? Are the records A, 122, B, 99 and 19, C, 98 and 16, or D, 97 and 13? All have the sweltering and bone-chilling answer at the conclusion of this episode of Shootin' the Breeze. On September 14th, 2018, Hurricane Florence made landfall at Wrightsville Beach after an agonizing 2 weeks of watching it cross the Atlantic. The storm featured every hazard a hurricane can bring, and it lasted for days. The residual freshwater flooding lasted weeks, and in many cases, the recovery has taken years, even to this present day. The special Hurricane Florence 5 years later aired on WECT News on September 14th of this year. Its centerpiece was a roundtable with WECT News anchors John Evans, Francis Weller, Kim Ratcliffe, and Bill Murray. And from the First Alert Weather Team, Eric Davis, Gabe Ross, and myself. The discussion was fantastic, enlightening, and cathartic. I encourage you to check it out on YouTube or WECT.com/hurricane, among other places. And as you might imagine, there was a lot of material, reflections, perspective, etc., that didn't make the special, stuff from the cutting room floor, so to speak. I wanted to showcase some of that here on Shootin' the Breeze, and I'll go first. That is why Florence is the poster child of do not judge a hurricane by its category. Do not get hung up by the categories, because even something like tree damage, you say, okay, well, the higher the category, the stronger the winds. That's how, okay, the more trees will suffer damage. A lower category for a longer duration can be worse, because the stress on those trees day after day after day, finally some of those jimmy free and give up or snap. So duration is not included in category. And now news anchor Bill Murray speaks to the aftermath of the monster that was Florence.
It ended up being a twofold problem too, is because when we got done here, for example, I was 2.5 weeks at a shelter right up the road at the church right up here. You know, a lot of people were out of their homes, couldn't get in. And in a scenario where it was high season, obviously there weren't tourists here, but then you couldn't get a motel room anywhere within a 50-mile radius, because then everybody from outside came in, these long-term recovery workers came in and booked up those rooms, and you know, the parking lots were filled with campers where people had come in from other parts of the country. Again, we knew then it was just going to be a long-term recovery effort.
I remember a lot of those individuals left when Hurricane Michael hit the Florida Panhandle that October. That was a turning point, and it clicked on that's what some of these individuals do, is they come in, but that became the zone, and then we were kind of just finding our way back to normal at that point, but there's still roofs gone and houses gutted from the moisture, and you're thinking, okay, well, here comes winter. Hurricane Florence was very hard on the WECT Shipyard Boulevard studios. Here I reflect on when the eye walls 100-mile-per-hour wind gusts clawed at our roof while we were on the air.
The same part of the eye wall had passed over the station. So I think that was where your mindset was, because I remember you and I were there and we could hear damage happen on the roof, probably some part of the HVAC at that point. But I remember the pressure change. I likened it to being inside a compressed can of like tuna, and then just somebody popping up, open the lid. You could feel the pressure change, and that got our adrenaline going. Next thing you know, you see Colin in the same part of the storm, and it had wobbled down. And only he's not under a housed roof at that point. Right. So we were all very concerned.
And I don't know if a lot of people realize, but some of those reporters that we sent out, you know, they pair up, they go out with as much equipment, as much supplies as they possibly can. We ask them to go stay wherever we can put them up. We had one in, I think, a salesperson's house. We had one hunkering down with a fire rescue department. And these kids have not been doing their jobs for very long. You know, and they did amazing work out in the field like that. But then, yes, as soon as they start coming back, you just want to hug them and say, God, you did such a great job. You know, and you do. You turn into a parent.
And we were glad they had a place to come back to, because, again, for a time it was iffy, because you used your contacts. People may not realize this, but is this building going to go? You were working the phones to get us a place to spend the night or to be able to broadcast from around town. And no one's really picking up the phone going, gee, I wonder who's calling now. You know, lots of places were shut down, and, you know, we had to take everybody and evacuate this building for a while.
And then we all came back.
We all came back.
Because we had to be on the air. So during all of that, I think it was while we were sleeping.
Yes.
That was our time to sleep, and we were supposed to be on the air. I think the shifts were midnight to midnight, if I remember. But they came in and said, we got to go. You guys have got to leave. And at that time, I think part of the water had started coming into the conference room where I was staying, all over the air mattresses and everything else. So we packed up and left, and then figured out that, okay, you guys were on here, and they weren't able to establish another set back at the location that we had found. And next thing we're thinking is, we got to get back somehow. And driving in it was not fun, even though it was right down the road.
They had actually shut down the roads or instituted a curfew at that point, correct?
Yeah.
So, we were kind of breaking curfew to get in and out, but also like
we had
to.
I remember looking at the general manager and saying, we have to be on the air in like an hour. We have to relieve John and Fran. We've got to get back. Can we go ahead and go back to the station? And I ended up coming back here soaking wet. You know, thank goodness we had power.
Hurricane Florence was a life-changing event for all who covered it with WECT News. Here, lead anchor Francis Weller reflects on the tough moments when the news team was sheltering during one of the many tornado warnings of the storm.
I remember looking at our chief photographer, Ryan Carresco, and you all know Ryan is usually calm and collected all the time. I saw fear on his face that I have never seen before, and I've worked with Ryan for many years. I saw fear on his face, and I remember thinking, he's got a wife and 2 kids, and he's worried that he might not see them again. It was real. It was as real as it gets. And that kind of fear, you can't even describe it. You can't even describe it. I just remember the looks on the faces of all of us. And I do remember Ryan specifically, and I thought, oh my God, I don't know.
I remember calling home several times. Are you guys up? Are you awake? There's a tornado. Because one of them...
While we were on television.
Yeah, one of them was very close to our homes. And I'm calling Hunter and Bill. I'm calling a couple friends that I could call or text to say, hey, there's a tornado warning, because it was the middle of the night. And you just want to make sure, those are the scariest to me, because people don't hear it, and they need to take cover.
That's what brought it all home.
Well, I don't remember who I remember going into the hallway, but I remember at first we didn't know where you were, and we were trying to find you to get you into the hallway, but I don't remember how we all went to that one location. Somebody was directing us to go there.
It's the innermost part of the building.
It is. It's very
and that's where they were going. I remember them walking by, talking, being on their iPads, walking right past us.
Memories and lessons from Hurricane Florence will forever shape how your WECT news team covers storms in our Cape Fear community. Rip currents are the Cape Fear region's #1 weather-related killer, and distant hurricanes are a huge generator of rip currents for the Cape Fear region. Here's what forecasters look for. First, the presence of any hurricane is one strike. Second, is the hurricane strong and or long-lasting? Those traits up the chance for swells and related rip currents. And third, is part of the hurricane's track aimed toward the Cape Fear region. Even if the storm doesn't go on to directly visit, this vector is important. Earlier in 2023, Hurricane Lee checked all those boxes and created an especially extended period of heavy surf and rip currents. And infamously, in October of 2019, a hurricane named Lorenzo did too. Lorenzo generated rip currents that killed 8 people on the East Coast, despite staying 2,000 miles away. Before you hit the beach on a warm fall day, make sure you check the rip current risk with your First Alert weather team. Even if our local skies are clear, a distant storm could be churning up trouble. So, fall. It's always sunny, 65 degrees with crisp humidity, right? Ha, you know better. Fall is a transition season. October and November are in the thick of it, so you better be ready for anything. If you said C to this episode's trivia question, you're right. Wilmington hit a scorching 98 degrees on October 3rd, 2019, and plummeted to a frigid 16 degrees after a major storm on November 26th of 1950. That's it for this 11th episode of Shootin' the Breeze. I hope you enjoyed, and please feel free to connect with me on these platforms. If you have a question about a topic you saw here on Shootin' the Breeze, if you have a suggestion for a Cape Fear or Carolina weather item you'd like to see covered in the future, or if you just want to say hello and what's the good word. And as always, WECT.com/anywhere is a great place to find more unique OTT content. Hope I'll see you for the next episode of Shootin' the Breeze, and take care.